I'm Tricia Seifert. I'm an assistant professor in the higher education group. And this session really comes out of my own experience with the Faculty Success Program, and I will provide links to the National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity, the program that I did 2 summers ago and have continued on as an alumni for the last 2.5 years. So these are not my ideas, these are borrowed ideas that Carrie Ann Rockamore, as the director, executive director of that center, has shared, and I've sort of tweaked them and invite you to be part of that conversation. So we're going to, in some cases, build this PowerPoint together today. And when I said bring a paper or pencil or tablet or computer, whatever implement you use to work on these days, I meant it really seriously. This isn't a workshop in which I'm going to talk a whole lot. I'm going to prompt questions and give you place and space to reflect. I find that actually in academic work, there's very little time for reflection. We're moving all the time. We've got so much to do, and it feels like we're always just trying to keep the plate spinning so that nothing falls down, or keep all the balls in the air, whatever metaphor works for you. And so today will be a chance for you to really do some of that reflection that you probably talk about or think about, but just never actually take the time to really sit down and reflect and plan. So that's really the goal. I found this image, the plan your work and work your plan. You've probably heard this before. It's nothing new. But I really believe if we don't plan our work, it's really hard to work what plan we have. So it's sort of a cyclical thing. Today we're going to talk about these points. There's always challenges in our academic term, but there are keys that we could use to be more successful and in realizing our goals. And so today, this is where we'll be working together to fill in this PowerPoint, is to brainstorm what are the challenges that you've experienced and what are the successful things that you've often thought, if I only did more of X, I bet it could really have a payoff. But maybe at this point you haven't invested in doing X. So let's talk about what those are. Then we're going to do a little dreaming and drawing up and thinking about what would be our ideal workday. Do we know what our ideal workday looks like? Because it's pretty difficult to have one if you have no consciousness of what it might consist of. So we're going to do some thinking around our ideal workday, and then walking through how to plan for this term, thinking about the supports that you might need to be successful. I often say in my class that it takes a village to do graduate school. It cannot be done alone. You have to work with others. You have to give yourself a measure of vulnerability to share your own uncertainties so that you can get the support you need from your faculty, your supervisors, your friends, your peers, your classmates, and other people to really help you believe in yourself on the days you don't believe in you. And those days come. So we're going to talk about what's the support networks that you need, and then some post-workshop resources. So this is the interactive portion. I'm going to move out of this form into here so that we can, in real time, what challenges do you face in your academic term? I just brainstormed one. I'm sure there are many more. But it strikes me that, pulling off of Diane's notion, how do we get this elusive, perhaps, notion of balance between class, work, personal demands, while simultaneously making headway on whatever writing projects we have in front of us? And that could include our thesis, or an article, or what have you. So what challenges do you face in the academic term? And as you talk them through, I'm going to type them up.
I think like prioritizing, what should you focus on when, basically?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe prioritizing tasks. Yeah. What else? What other challenges do you face? Yeah, Jeff?
That something always seems due tomorrow or in the next few days, which makes it harder to,
Uh-huh.
the challenge of looking beyond this week or even today, something. And similar to prioritizing.
Does that capture it? Yeah, Diane?
Oh, knowing how much time to allot.
Oh, yeah. Is that how you spell a lot? 2 L's? Yeah. Because it always takes longer. At least for me, everything takes longer.
Multitasking,
Say a little bit more about multitasking.
being able to work on different projects at the same time.
Mhm. This is what I find challenging about multitasking. I can work on multiple projects at the same time, but I often don't feel like I'm making any measurable progress. Like I'm just keeping the plate just enough to keep spinning without actually making forward headway. So how to work on multiple projects, I would say, and yet at the same time say, oh, I don't have to reacquaint myself with this project every time I pick it up again. I think about this in terms of always knowing who your dance partner is, as opposed to having to always have to reintroduce yourself to that dance partner. You know, it would be better if you're always like, oh, right, Christian, let's two-step, as opposed to, hi, my name is Tricia, and start all over again. Yeah. Any other challenges?
Starting something big,
Mm.
a blank screen.
How to start something big. And maybe the fear. Any other challenges? Yeah. Victoria.
Finding time to relax.
Oh,
That's right.
what a novel concept. Yeah.
How to plan for the unanticipated.
Mm.
Because you can, I often will have a pretty good sense of what I have to do over the next 3 or 4 months. And then there's the surprising kind of thesis that was unanticipated that suddenly ends up that you have to turn around in a relatively short period
Right,
of time.
right.
It's got to be done. How to plan for that.
Yeah.
How to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, Amy.
Just going back to the time allocation one, it's also knowing when to stop. Like you can spend hours and hours and hours on something and not, there's that sort of law of diminishing returns that you sort of face. When do you know how to stop where you've actually met the requirements and you've got enough, but you
Yeah.
just can't seem to stop the momentum?
Yeah. Like the notion of the perfect paper.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if I just put in another 15 hours, it will get so much better.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know, maybe, perhaps. Yeah. I actually went to graduate school with somebody who we joked was famous for the perfect paper. And sometimes it's like, get it out the door. Like, get some feedback, because you can be needling away on this forever and it will never move forward. Absolutely. So with those challenges, and my horrible hunch is we could keep going around the room, but I don't want this to feel defeating. So we're going to move out of the challenges and now into what are some of the keys that you have maybe envisioned exist out there in terms of if you only did more of X, that the term would be more successful. I often feel this right at the end of the term when maybe I'm sitting on the beach in Florida, like Catherine was over the holiday, thinking, you know, if I just would have done a little bit more of whatever, or a little bit less of something, I think my term would have been far improved. So for you, what have you often thought to yourself could be that X? And for me, it's identifying one of the points here was clear goals that are realistic. I have loads of clear goals that are not always realistic in the time frame I specify them. So what are the X's for you? Yeah, Paula.
It could be networking, finding the right kind of community
Mm.
to work through your
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Exploring new activities or hobbies.
Mm.
At the same time, it may be also like a challenge at the same time.
Yeah. Well, this gets to that relaxing, finding balance. Yeah. Excellent. Other things. Yeah.
I find that with term papers that the hardest part is to actually decide what I'm going to write about, and then if I spend time early on thinking about what I'm going to write about, actually writing isn't that difficult. So just thinking about what really, what seems like too soon in a way, that so that you can spend a lot of time thinking about it.
Does that capture it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reading.
Reading. And by reading.
It's been a constant sort of thing that I've for the last 2.5 years. If I could only read more, I would do better.
But reading what? Reading the course material, reading outside,
Yeah,
reading
more-
out of your discipline?
No, reading in my discipline and the papers that I need to read in terms of understanding where I want to go, and reading the literature, actually,
Mhm.
irrelevant literature. I have stacks and stacks and stacks on my desk in my office.
Mhm.
Every time I look at them, I feel guilty because I'm not making my way through them.
I'm sure you are not alone. Yeah. Yeah. What else? Yeah, Victoria.
I find I get distracted easily, so I have to focus. I think I need to focus to have a more successful term. Because I get distracted by things at work and other things. So.
Does that capture it?
I think one of the things you said earlier is reflecting. I think making time to reflect on past courses or things we read, that would certainly help for a more successful term.
Yeah.
Taking time to reflect and making the connections to my own research.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? Anything else?
I think there has to be a little bit of everything in a term. I guess it goes back to somebody said balance. You don't want to be have your list so long that you can't see a new article in something you're interested in and just read it outside of your field or whatever, or you meet somebody new. Like some time in your schedule to do something like that.
Making space for downtime.
It's not really downtime.
No?
It could be part of your work. It's just that those are things that fall to the bottom all the time. And you have to really work hard to say, okay, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do anything this day except write, for example.
So how would you frame that? Making space, time for what?
For creativity.
Ah, for creativity. Yeah. The in the moment opportunity.
Because I find when I slow down, the things start to connect. And if I'm always just going, okay, I did 1, I did 2, I did 3, I did 4,
Yeah.
I'm not in the right mode for creativity.
So giving ourselves space and place to slow down, to sort of see the landscape and make the connections and be creative in our thinking so that we can see those connections.
It's
Yeah.
almost like you're making time to be distracted. Things that sort of pop up that by the unanticipated.
Maybe for the unanticipated, maybe for the distracted, or maybe to just let your mind go in an unanticipated place and see where the fruits might lie if it's not always planned and linear. And so giving some time and space. I've heard of people say that they try to book, like 30 minutes in different places within their calendar, or not, but just leaving space in your calendar every day where there's nothing booked, where you can just find and follow an article, have an impromptu conversation, where that it's not so chock-a-block that it's one thing after another. I'm pretty horrible about this, so I am no expert. I am student as much, and really only facilitator. So with these ideas, yeah, Diane.
I was going to say, I call that brain downtime.
Mm-hmm.
And what I still do struggle with a little bit is having that time guilt-free.
I think that's even more important. We'll qualify this. Guilt-free brain downtime. Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think it's important because it strikes me that we could, in this world, work every moment. This is what's different about an academic life choice and those that maybe your partner or your friends have, where they have positions and they have jobs, and they go to them, and then they leave them. But because our job can honestly be done from anywhere, that you can plug in a computer or have battery power and maybe a Wi-Fi connection, you could probably fill every hour, I could fill every hour of every day with work. Literally. There is no shortage. My list of potential projects is a mile long. And my guess is you're not so very different. And so we have to be really conscious and mindful about what is our downtime. When do we unplug to rejuvenate? So, okay, with that in mind, first exercise. Jot down your ideal workday. What would it look like?